All right, we're back on the Morning Brew, and our first day back from a little hiatus.
Feels really good.
Yeah, it does.
We made it through the first two segments, so that's good.
The second half of the show, and we're here. Amber, will you do the honors, introduce our next guests?
I will. Well,
Yeah.
I left the notes with their last names on the table.
Well, this is Matt Fuller. That's Eric Renz-Whitmore.
And that's Eric over there.
All right, I got that covered for you.
Thanks.
Eric, welcome back.
Glad to be back.
He's real smart.
Yeah.
Not at this hour. I don't know. Thank you.
Usually we talk tech stuff with you, Eric. So what do we have today?
Well, today there's a lot of great activity that's happening in the startup and entrepreneurial world. So we wanted to bring Matt Culler over here from Coronado Ventures to talk a little bit about an event he's got going on in about 2 weeks. But this week we've got a thing called Entrepreneurs Day, which really is a mashup of two events. One is the Fat Pipe opening. I know you had Fat Pipe ABQ
Yes.
director Lisa Adkins on a couple weeks ago.
Interesting. She's really great.
It's great. That's really growing, and it's one of the different locations that's part of this innovation district that's growing, and you've been hearing a lot about, but now you're starting to really see that activity. So to help kick that off, we're also we're also going to do a bit of a preview on Tech Fiesta, which is a tech week coming this September, which will really be kind of a coming out party for the innovation district as well. But that's followed by TEDx ABQ, great big event, but they're doing a salon on entrepreneurs, and that's coming this Thursday as well. So right after the Fat Pipe opening and this this preview of Tech Fiesta, folks can head over to Albuquerque Museum and do the TEDx ABQ salon for entrepreneurs.
See, Larry, this kind of answers to what's going on downtown.
Yeah.
You know, when we have reporters like Dennis who don't know what Albuquerque Innovate is, or you know, this is kind of answering to that the tech, the startups, and all of the development and surrounding that, and the support that's surrounding that is alive and well downtown. Fat Pipe is downtown, where you guys are. What you're talking about is just all about this innovation and this culture that's going on, this brain culture and brain trust that's happening.
Well, a lot of things happen sort of behind the scenes. In order to make a great startup, there's a lot of work that happens before you learn about it. And that's one of the things Matt and I were just talking about in the other room. It takes a while before it's ready to show off to the public, and that's what we're starting to see now.
So Matt, what is your event? Tell us about it.
So the event's name is Mix Starter. So essentially what we're doing is we're trying to bring a little different than what Eric's focused on, which I'd call the more institutional, a little more formal type entrepreneurship, and looking at some of the less funded, the less pursued here in New Mexico, but in other places not activities. This has sort of been wrapped up in what's been called crowdfunding.
Right.
What crowdfunding really is it's dollars that are being contributed towards different entrepreneurial ideas that are a little less traditional or don't really have access to the traditional capital that a lot of startups do. So it's really this notion of democratizing access to startup capital, but it's for things a little different than maybe, you know, your next eBay or your next terrific website. And it's a little more focused on how do we get a beer co-op funded? How do we, you know, get a machine, come together and purchase a machine that we need to make, you know, packets of tea in that can be then distributed to a number of people who would be interested, but I, as maybe a non-traditional entrepreneur, don't have a rich uncle. I don't look like me, and so can go and talk a bunch of venture capitalists out of money. So I can go to my customers essentially and say, wow, I think I'm trustworthy. You should think I'm trustworthy. So why don't you give me $25 or $50, and I'll turn around and use that money with some others, and I'll go ahead and produce that product. I'll create that good or that service that you want, but I need you to front me the money. Essentially, it's a mechanism to do that.
Great idea.
And the marketplace is obviously already there supporting you from the beginning.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
There's less of a gamble when you already know, well, this is viable. I know it is because look at all the folks that are contributing. For
sure, and that's part of what inspired Mix Starter, which I'll tell you what that is, you know, here in a moment. But I looked around, and my fiance actually is a filmmaker and was having some difficulties with her master's project. They were trying to come together, a group of them, and produce a film. And what was interesting is they went on your traditional, your Kickstarters, your Indiegogos, which are wonderful sites. However, there's no local sort of element to it. There's not that interpersonal connection that you can make. And what they found actually their biggest backer, if you will, was a guy they ran into at a coffee shop while they were sitting and talking. And so what we're trying to do with Mixed Starters, restore some of that local, some of that interpersonal. So essentially what we've got is we've teamed up with the city of Santa Fe. It's a group called Mix Santa Fe. They put on monthly events. CVF is a group that I've been on the board of about the last 4 years. What we are is an entrepreneur nonprofit that tries to connect people with ideas to sources of capital. So we've teamed up to say, let's hand curate and select about a dozen projects throughout the state, people looking to do traditional crowdfunding type activities, and we'll say, as opposed to just put it up in the internet and let's see who comes, we're going to highlight all these projects, not only through the network, not only through programs such as yourself, but we're also going to have a live event in Santa Fe on July 17th from 6 to 8 o'clock at the Gerald Peters Gallery. We expect a few hundred people to be there. There's no cost to attend. It's absolutely free. In fact, everybody gets a cocktail just for showing up. And we're going to have the backers of these projects actually there in the gallery, pitching to you, essentially, giving you their elevator pitch around what their idea is. So the notion is, instead of just a traditional online campaign, we're going to marry that to this local, this interpersonal communication, because what I found is a lot of crowdfunding is more than just the dollars, what am I going to get back out of it? It actually sort of straddles the line between donations and philanthropy and this more capitalist type activity that you might think about for getting the good or service. By connecting people, we think face to face in a really personal way, it not only is going to give the entrepreneurs the opportunity to tell their stories, but it gives the backers something that when I, go online and I send some money to Boston, I hope it does well for them, but here it establishes that connection. And in part of what you guys were speaking about in your last segment, it's about how do we do things locally, how do we support our own and not just send our dollars elsewhere. There's an amazing amount of innovation and entrepreneurism that comes here, that starts here. How do we keep it here? How do we grow it here? And this is just one small part of the larger innovation meme that you're really hearing develop.
Wow. Cool. Impressive. It's kind of a nicer version of Shark Tank. And then you're having a cocktail and you're visiting and exchanging ideas. So this event's the 17th, right?
Yes, so it's July 17th in Santa Fe at the Gerald Peters Gallery, which is off Paseo, is just a beautiful location. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. They've got a nice statue garden out in the back as well. So I encourage everybody to, please come and tell people about it.
Good idea.
It's a great idea. Instead of sitting at home just kind of feeling kind of lost as to where you can go next. It's like, this is a great place to start. You're going to get face-to-face with potential, investors, and they're going to see your passion. They're going to feel you. And
that's what we're really hoping to encourage. There we expect, a few hundred people, honestly, to be in attendance, and so it's a nice way to mix. Because one other thing that's very hard we found for a lot of entrepreneurs, and I'm sure Eric, will back me up on this, it's that being able to get that face time, being able to meet people. Because one thing that New Mexico has is a lot of what I'll call retirement money. So it's not that there aren't people here willing to invest, willing to look at new ideas, but the problem is their network is wherever they left. It's in San Francisco or Los Angeles or on the East Coast, and unfortunately that's where they still invest their monies. So it's a way of connecting those people that have both the means as well as the desire to continue to invest in innovation, in new ideas, but say, hey, here's something in your own backyard where you can get some of those. Like I said, it's about straddling that line between philanthropy and that desire to give back to the next generation and start that next tech entrepreneur, as well as a little bit of the more traditional, yes, but I am looking for some sort of return, and that's not necessarily just financial. Sometimes that's emotional. Sometimes that's seeing something succeed. It's that desire to give back.
And so living in the community where all of that effort is going to have a benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you're going to create jobs in the community that you live in, that desperately needs jobs.
For sure, and you guys will speak well to the rising tide really does lift all boats. So it's about seeing everybody else being successful. How do we innovate? How do we grow together? Not make it a zero-sum game where my benefit is your loss.
Absolutely.
Now, you said you've been on the board of this venture capital group for what, 4 years?
For about 4 years. So CVF, Coronado Ventures Forum, is actually about 20 years old. Like I said, it was started with the idea of how do we do this? How do we connect entrepreneurs with people with means and capital? And so essentially it's this pairing of about half the board are venture capitalists or financial types, such as myself, and the other half are much more, similar to Eric and guys that truly, innovate and understand how technology works and comes out. And so what we're looking to do is we host quarterly events and to promote different themes. And this is a theme that we've landed upon, actually wanted to do for a while, but as you well know, crowdfunding's hard. Raising money's hard in all sorts of different ways, so we're really excited.
Well, thank you
Great
for
stuff.
excellent
Thanks for bringing
explanation.
Matt.
Oh,
Six
pleasure.
smart
Pleasure.
guys.
Yeah.
Good looking
Passionate,
men.
definitely.
All right, I hope you got a lot out of that segment. We'll continue here on the Morning Brew in just a moment.